this thing doesn't work, I'll stop. So I'll talk about it.
Yeah. So my name is Chuck Grenfell, and I am the network engineer here at the hospital. This is Cameron Harris, he's my partner in crime. The big takeaway for you guys today is that, yeah?
Is there any way to turn that off now that you're not using it? Thank you.
So the big takeaway for you guys today is that IT is available 24/7, 365. If at any time during your job or your shift, something IT related is preventing you from doing your job, we're a simple phone call away. It doesn't matter if it's 2 p.m. or 2 a.m., we're reachable 100% of the time. We may not call you back right away, but just know that we will call you back. During business hours, so I'm here about 7, a little bit before 7. Somebody's generally here at about 5:30 or 6. You can pick up any house phone, dial 700. It's going to ring right to our offices. It rings all of our offices at the same time. We spend a lot of time supporting state agencies outside the facility. So when we're outside the facility, sometimes the easiest way to get a hold of us, if it's not an emergency, is via email. All of our distribution lists within the email system start with WSH, Wyoming State Hospital, dash, and generally a department name. Ours happens to be IT@wyo.gov. We like this because we get this on our phone when we're not in the facility. But if it's an emergency, you can pick up any house phone, dial 0, whoever the switchboard operator happens to be that time, just say, hey, this is so-and-so, need to get a hold of IT. She'll generally take a message. She'll call us, we will call you back. It may take us a while or a few minutes for us to wake up if it's the middle of the night, but just know that we will get back with you. All right? Any questions about that? You can dial 0 or 700. All right?
Okay, so you guys will be working with pretty confidential material here, that's no surprise. You just need to make sure that no matter how much security our systems provide electronically, no security in the world is good enough to totally stop its prevention of an attack or data theft. So just be aware that technology alone can't provide adequate information security. So it kind of falls some of it on you guys. So we need your help in that.
Yeah, so as the user, you're kind of our first layer of our security program here at the hospital. And we'll say it a bazillion times through this presentation, you have to be cognizant, you have to be smart of where you go and what you click on. All right, and we have some examples later on.
And this is just basically states a 2006 article, and this is how relevant this still is. Most security incidents are caused by lack of awareness of what the risk actually is. And like Chuck said, he'll give you some examples. You guys have probably already received some in your lives at home. But again, to reiterate, please understand your roles and responsibilities in this. Here are the items that are not allowed through the gate on the hill. Personal items, computers, laptops, printers, USB drives. Do you have any students here?
No interns?
Okay. Are you living on campus? Okay. It is allowed in your living quarters, but not on the halls.
And if you require a USB drive to do your schoolwork, just let me scan it before you use it. It'll take 35 seconds. I mean, it's not take long at all, but just bring it to our office is on the other side of this building. Just bring it over there, let me scan it, and you can use it where you need it. Okay?
USB drives, DVDs, external hard drives, iPods or MP3 players. Any wireless equipment is not allowed. And the catch-all of that is any and all unauthorized IT equipment. If you guys need anything IT to do your job, call us and we will do it within what we can do fiscally responsibly. Okay, we can't spend a ton of money, but we will make sure we try to get you what you need.
These are all ways of taking information away from the network. If you were to steal it, I hope you wouldn't do that. But there are also ways of introducing harmful problems to the network in the way of viruses and stuff like that. So we just nip it all in the bud. We will provide you whatever you need to do your job. Like Cam said, you know, within fiscal constraints. But yeah, we have issues with this. So please, please, please adhere to the policy.
Again, to further on that point, employee-owned computer equipment will not be allowed on the grounds. Just those same items there are listed again, and then personal USB drives may be used on campus. We have them in the IT department. We'll be more than happy to give you those, or if you need your scan if you're doing schoolwork. So just be aware of that.
That's the only 2 pieces of equipment that are allowed. So if I scan an intern, and we do that because they use it for their schoolwork back to the university, or one we provide you. At no time should there be any other items, personal items plugged into the computer, and we're talking even charging cell phones, your personal USB drives, MP3 players, stuff like that. You'll see those on the hall when you're working, but those are the ones that the hospital has purchased themselves, and those aren't anybody's personal ones, okay? And I know it kind of seems like we're like, say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, but it just saves us huge problems on the backside of it, and it's all happened before, so we're just trying to not make it happen again.
Do not share your passwords with anyone. You are personally responsible and accountable for all activity occurring under your particular user ID and password. If I borrow Chuck's user ID and his password to log into the computer because I don't have mine, we're both in violation of policy. Therefore, I asked him for it, so I'm in trouble, and then he gave it to me. If you need your password reset, use the protocol that Chuck had mentioned earlier about calling the switchboard, particularly if it's after hours. I have the ability to remote into our systems from where I live. Like he said, it just takes me as long as it takes me to wake up, but I will do that for you, and it's usually a pretty simple process. So. Again, their passwords are an important tool to protect the data here. Keep them to yourself, and they can be easily or stolen or duplicated if they are constructed poorly. Before I came here, I worked 11.5 years in the school district. Had a 7th grader take down our grading system with something she got off the internet, and she was selling grades for $5. So it's really not that hard to do and to find things that will allow these to be duplicated. We're not in total prevention, no one is, but we are to try to, hackers will move on if they can't do it within a certain amount of time. So that's why we have a complexity policy.
This will be, when you get your, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you get your account information, this policy is written at the bottom of it, so you don't have to write it down or remember it.
Yeah, and it must contain at least 9 characters. You can go up to 254.
56.
So 256, don't do that. You'll be calling us the next day. It cannot contain any part of your name or your account name. And here's what he's saying by this: if you need to keep the sheet of paper or you need to call us, it must contain 3 of the 4 of the following: an uppercase, a lowercase, a number, or a special characters. Passwords will change every 40 days. 7 days prior to that 40th day, you'll start getting an alert in the bottom right-hand corner of your computer screen. It will tell you to change it. It's just basically a countdown. And then you cannot use any of your previous 5 passwords. Pretty industry standard stuff here. So, not using a password or blank password can contribute to weak passwords or poor passwords, default passwords, which you cannot do, and again, common words. So earlier I said to use a special character. Common words are the words you see on the slide or anywhere in a book. If you use things such as special characters, so like instead of an E, use a 3, instead of an I, use an exclamation point, it is harder to be cracked, and therefore will probably not, the hacker will probably try to move on. And again, please don't use passwords to refer to your personal life. Most people look to Facebook as the very first thing, and usually like an overwhelming amount of time, that's where they find your password.
So when people try and steal your identity or hack your account, what they're looking for is an easy target. And like Cam said a couple times, nothing is foolproof. Nothing's going to stop everybody all the time. But if you can make it more difficult, hopefully the idea is that they move on down the road. So you just got to make it more difficult.
To create a strong password, set a password, exceed the standards, create a phrase instead of a simple word, and use multiple combinations of required characters, as I had mentioned previously.
So our email system here at the hospital is Gmail. If you've used Gmail at home or Yahoo or MSN, whatever you use, they're not very functional rich as far as making things easy or pretty, but they work for us just fine. Because we use a Google product, and Gmail is probably the most heavily targeted system for identity theft on the internet. Email goes through several layers of security before it actually lands in your inbox, but I still get several a day, and I bet Cam still gets several a day. So you have to be careful of what you click on in your email because not all of it is legit. So I alluded to the identity theft scam. We call this phishing, and it is simply just that. Somebody throws some bait out there in the way of an email, and they just sit back and wait for people to click on them. And some of them are really sophisticated, and some of them are obvious scams, and we'll talk about that in a second. So you're going to see these emails come through. Like I said, they somehow avoid security, and we get multiples a day. Yeah, these are delivered to your inbox. They can look realistic. They can sometimes even mimic real emails, and we have some examples. But they're scams. There's telltale signs that they're a scam. Here's one that came to me from the Board of the Federal Reserve, Board of Governors from the Federal Reserve. I mean, I obviously know the Federal Reserve exists. They make our money. But I have no idea if it has a Board of Governors, and if it does, I have no idea why somebody so important would be emailing me telling me a wire transfer failed. I didn't do a wire transfer, but and I didn't go past the screen. But I think if right here where it says click here, I would assume the next screen wants banking information. I mean, it looks legitimate. If you didn't think it was legitimate or didn't think it was fake, you could fall for this one pretty easy. So this one just says, hey, you have an inbound fax. Click this link to get your fax. Well, we have a system here at the facility that handles all of our inbound faxes and outbound faxes and delivers those right to your inbox. If you didn't know that it was not called Ring Central, you might fall for this. I have no idea what's on the next screen. Yeah, not very sophisticated. This one on the sophistication scale is probably, with 10 being the most sophisticated, this one's probably at -5. This guy has a pretty sweet business opportunity for me in Libya. So you laugh, but there's people that fall for this. I don't doubt that at all. On that scale, this one's probably about a 6. This one is branded American Express up and down. The two things that tell me that it's not legit, it even has an American Express fraud statement. If you think this is fake, report it to American Express. The address which it came from, I know you can't read it because I can't read it with here. It says American Express of American instead of American Express, and that changes the entity that it comes from. And then, dear customer, right here, I happen to have American Express card, and I know that they will never send you an email that is not directly addressed to you. So it'll say, dear Chuck Grenfell or whatever, or whoever. And this one's all right. So here's another -5 on the sophistication scale. So this guy emailed me, tells me apparently I've lost a bag in Pennsylvania, and he's so nice to try and unite me with my bag again. So here's the email, and all these circles lead me to believe that it's a reason that it's fraudulent. So the address that it comes from, the name that he says in the first line, and the name that he closes the email with, all three are different. The email that he wants me to reply to, here and here, at the top is different than what it came from. Hello friend, he doesn't know me specifically. The punctuation, the spelling, leads me to believe one of two things. This person may not speak English as a second language, or speaks English as a second language, or it's been run through something like Google Translate. So, yeah, not very sophisticated. This guy sent me an email one day. Apparently he changes his name real fast because of Rob Van Kirk at the top and Alan Tyler at the bottom. He just wants me to view a document. I have no idea where it went from here. I was on the internet one day and this popped up, hey, your email account expires in 3 days. Tell me absolutely everything about it. And you might say, well, what's up? It's just my email. But you have to think of the information that's in our email is federally protected information. So we have to be careful. Your email doesn't work that way here at the hospital, and it does not work that way at your house either. So don't fall for this one. Same type of thing, hey, your email account or your mailbox has exceeded its quota limit, which is a registered trademark. That's kind of weird. Click here to revalidate your mailbox. Again, your email doesn't work that way, so don't fall for this one. On the sophistication scale, this one's a 10. And we've been caught by something really similar to this a couple times in the last several years here at the facility. This one just says, hey, I was on vacation, I'm back to work now. There's just one last invoice that hasn't been paid. Click on the associated Word document to find out what it is. The Word document that looks like it's a Word document right here is not a Word document, it is a virus. So if you click on this, we have problems. But if you get something like this, you have to say, well, why would somebody send me an invoice? That's weird, and please don't click on it. So the one time there's a couple times we had issues like this. So the gal here in the facility who pays our bills here at the facility in accounts payable, she got something like this from FedEx. It looked like it was from FedEx. Hey, there's a bill or a shipping invoice you need to print off for a package. Well, it wouldn't be unusual for her to get FedEx packages. So she clicked on it, and we proceeded to have, how long did we have problems, Cam? Weeks. It was bad. Some Russian hacker encrypted a bunch of stuff, but it took a while to get undone. But we got it all undone. And then the second time we had issues was I got an email, or several people of us got emails, and it was from a lady who works over in the business office, and it says, hey, I want to share a business plan with you. Now, not unusual for me to get an email from Lisa, not unusual for anybody in the facility to get an email from Lisa, but for her to share a personal business plan with me, that was weird, and that's what tipped me off. So apparently, this virus, or this email virus, had been running rampant in Cheyenne, 325 miles away, for months without anybody telling us. And the way it worked was, somebody would get an email that came into the state, and they would click on it, and then it would email everybody they had ever emailed something to. So if that one person has emailed 100 people, now it sends one email to those 100 people, and if they click on it, now that 100 becomes, I can't do the math here, but exorbitant, and it multiplies and multiplies and multiplies, just by people not being diligent and thinking of what they're clicking on. We can't say it enough, you have to be careful of what you click on.
Well, and two things to expound upon your point. Number one, if you clicked on something in error or you think something is not right, please don't be afraid to call us. We're not going to come kicking down your door and ban you off computers forever. We're here to help you. So the most important thing is if you feel you've clicked on something in error, the sooner we can try to mitigate that issue, the better. And so people were calling us, and with that example he just gave you, and it was a pretty simple fix. They had to change their password, and they had to delete their signature line in some cases. But we're here to help you. And like he said, just realize the scope of what you'd be receiving emails. It is not odd for this person to be sending out emails, but I'm not so sure she should be using a state email to try to push business opportunities. So like he said, just the content in the email, usually just opening it to this point usually won't launch the virus, but something like that is the payload, like such down at the bottom, as Chuck mentioned. So the way he mentioned was called phishing. That was electronically via email. Social engineers are usually people who either call you and in some extreme cases have blended in with the company by walking through the door. Here that's kind of hard due to the facility locks and stuff that we have, but still they sound friendly and trustworthy and try to be helping you. The biggest thing I always say here, as much as Chuck and I and Steve, the other person in our department, would love to be proactive and help you, we are mostly reactive. We can't call you and tell you that your hard drive's going to die tomorrow. You usually call us and tell us that. So just be aware of that. Sometimes we'll have planned maintenance that we'll be more than happy to let you guys know about, but mostly we're reactive. Some of you may have gotten calls at home from Microsoft or someone claiming to be Microsoft saying that your computer's broken and they want to install a piece of software. That's a social engineer. So again, there's only 3 of us. It's not that hard. It's Chuck, Steve, or I, Cameron. If it's not one of us, I would be suspecting of something, okay? Again, if someone asking you out of the blue questions, if someone asks you to provide your username or password, we will never ask for that to do our job. We have administrative rights that we can work on your computer for you. If someone asks you to change your password and install a piece of software for them, and again, it goes back to my original point, did you initiate the call or did somebody else? Always be skeptical when someone's requesting information. Chuck or I will never ask you about patient information to do our job. We don't need to. Never email your passwords or banking information or credit cards. For that matter, be careful on a personal side, what you text now. There's text sniffers out there that will try to decrypt your texting and get the information off of there. Be careful of any unexpected email attachments, and never enter private or personal information into any pop-up window, as he mentioned earlier. And again, if there's any doubt about the validity of something, do not open it. You can call us. We'll ask you a few quick questions. We have the ability to remote into any computer on the Hill, and we'll take a look and help you.
So along with your email, there's something else you need to be aware of, and that's the Wyoming Public Records Act. And basically, the act just says that anybody can have access to your email because it's public record. And the obvious things will be redacted, anything that's protected, personal information, patient information. But outside of that, it's free game. So we just want to help you avoid any embarrassing situation for you, the facility, Department of Health, or even the state. All really somebody has to do is go to the right office in Cheyenne, fill out a paper or two, and they can get your email. So just be careful.
So the next two items that Chuck and I will cover are probably the most items that we see as far as IT get people in trouble for, and one's the Internet Acceptable Use Policy. The state's IT resources and connection are the property of the state, and they are provided to facilitate the effective and efficient conduct of business here. So basically, all that's saying is if you use the internet in accordance with what you do here at the state hospital, there's not going to be a problem. We're going to go through a bunch of things on the next slide that are pretty obvious, but you also need to be aware that there are some things that are not. The prohibited interactivity naturally is accessing, downloading, printing, or storing information with sexually explicit content, downloading threatening or obscene messages, purchasing or installing computer software, uploading or downloading copyrighted materials. That fourth bullet down, a lot of times will catch people. If you were going to show a YouTube video to a group or a group of clients, you do need author or publisher's consent because you are putting that as far as out there. Cora Klotzbach, who works here, always does that. It's relatively easy. You just find the author or publisher on YouTube and you email them, and usually they let you use it. It's not that big of a deal. Permitting a non-employee to use resources, so you can't bring anybody in who doesn't work here to use the resources. And then any activities designated by the agency. So that's kind of the catch-all, meaning if the state doesn't find, if it's not there, they'll find something, okay? We are not in charge of the internet. Chuck and I fall under the same rules and regulations as you guys do. This computer lab over here is open 24/7, 365. These rules apply whether you're on your shift or off your shift. We've had some questions before from CNAs about how he wanted to come in and search automatic weapons during his lunch break. And he asked if that was, acceptable. That's not acceptable. You're still using the state's resources to do so. You'll find no two bigger advocates than Chuck or I on the Hill. If you call us and say, hey, I'm looking up something for medical terminology or something like that, we can support that. It's when you step out of those bounds that we have a hard time doing so.
And I'll just reiterate everything Cam said on top of that, is that as long as you use the internet as a tool for your particular job, you'll never have a problem, and we can advocate for you if there's ever an issue. It's when you kind of step outside that bubble and it becomes an entertainment tool while you're here that we can no longer advocate for you. So, and I'll give you some examples. So the way I use the internet is completely different than the way, Elena, what's your position here?
Food service.
Food service, so you probably wouldn't use the internet, right? And Taylor, you're an RT intern, right? So I always pick on RT interns because sometimes I get, or not interns, but RTs period, because I'll get a lot of calls from them. This person's been on the internet and they're looking up puzzles or color pages or Xbox games. Yeah, that's their freaking job, it's okay. But when that CNA comes in here and tries to justify the fact that he's looking at guns on the internet, well, it's my break. Well, it doesn't matter if it's your break or not. It's an entity owned by the state and you have to follow the rules 100% of the time. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We're not oblivious to the fact that it gets abused at times. And I don't care, but Cam alluded to, is the next slide talk about the firewall? Yeah, Cam will talk about this in a second. But there is something out there that records everything wherever you go. So just know that this machine's out there. And yeah, it just does that, just records everything you go. I'm sorry, I didn't say much.
No, that's fine. And it is, it's exactly what he says, it's a machine, it's called the state firewall. And that biggest bullet pretty much explains it all. It monitors all, logs all that internet activity. It logs a request, it scans the material, and it does in some cases filter. Chuck can tell you, Chuck and I can tell you, the filtering here is very loose, so it will let you go a lot of places. And then it's used in an investigative manner. What that means is if someone wants your internet history, and HR asks for that, Chuck and I have tools that will pull that usage, and we will give that to the HR department. We don't look at it, we don't want to be the internet place, and that's why. And like he said, this is a machine, so it's pretty black or white, and there's no gray area. So you can't say I accidentally spent 12 hours on Facebook. That's kind of a hard sell for us, and it records every click. So if you left Facebook open for a client, or you left ESPN open because you're searching a sports score for a client, which we don't have problems with, it's the duration on which you're on there and how many clicks you go deep, if that makes any sense.
So, Cam talked about an example. So this happened several years ago, is that, so this firewall, so when you hit what we call an unapproved site or non-approved site, a filtered site, the system immediately sends off emails, like 15 or 16 statewide, to all these IT managers statewide. And it gives you everything, the who, what, when, where, not the why obviously, but it gives you everything. The time, the computer name, the person, the site name you were trying to go to, the category that it was filtered under. So we had a nurse here that was doing some prostate research for a client who had just been diagnosed with prostate cancer. So he accidentally clicked on a site that turned out to be pornographic. It had a very explicit name, whatever you can do with your prostate. And then so all that information went out in the email. And there was a gal in Cheyenne who came back and in the email chain, we need to fire this guy, this is disgusting, this is horrible, there's no place for it in the workplace. Well, we put the brakes on, like, well, hold on, let's find out what's going on. So I called the guy and I said, what are you doing? I said, well, yeah, I said, that was me. I clicked on something that was bad, but I didn't mean to. I was only there for a second or two. And through the firewall logs, we can tell, like Cam always says, there's a difference between a uh-oh and a uh-oh, you know? So we can tell through the firewall logs that he went, oh crap, click, and shut the page down. And that, we can defend that, and we will do that. It's when those people turn that into, let's see where this goes, we can, the second click on that page, we cannot defend, nor will we. So, and I know it sounds like it's draconian, please don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, but this will save you a bunch of headaches if you follow the policy. And with that, so that was the internet, and now we're going to talk about PEDs. When we talk about PEDs, we're talking about, most 99% of the cases, we're talking cell phones. And I'm going to read you the policy, and then we'll talk about it just for a second. So, portable electronic devices, including but not limited to cell phones, tablets, cameras, MP3 players, shall not be used while working in a patient area. Personal calls during a shift, regardless of the phone used, can interfere with employee productivity, patient staff safety, and may breach confidentiality. The use of audio or visual capable devices could constitute an invasion of patients' and employees' personal privacy and may breach confidentiality. This is word for word from the policy. The use of phones while on work time and in a patient care role is prohibited. Patient care role where phones are prohibited include but are not limited to patient care and treatment units, treatment centers, other patient access areas, behavioral observations, patient supervision both on and off campus, during transports, waiting for or with a patient during an appointment, during consults, meetings, evaluations, meals, groups, indoor or outdoor activity. Now, that's like basically everything we do inside the fence. The policy basically says you cannot use your phone where a patient could be, not where a patient is, but where a patient could be. And that's everywhere but this building. This building is not licensed for patient use anymore. There's never a patient in this building. So, but with that caveat, you'll see people walk around with cell phones. I have a state-provided phone. Cam has a state-provided phone. But you will never see us use it in or around patient population. We'll always excuse ourselves, lock ourselves in a room or somewhere around or away from patients. Non-hospital issued phones will be turned off in a patient care role. Text messaging or playing games on a phone is strictly prohibited while in a patient care role. Use of cameras or other video-capable recording devices is prohibited on campus without the express prior permission of the administrator or his designee and the persons present at the time. Patient permission will be given in writing or for the patient or the patient's guardian. Non-hospital issued phones will be turned off during classes, in-service, and meetings. State employees driving the state vehicle will pull over to the side of the road and park the vehicle prior to placing or accepting a call. Supervisors remind staff of their responsibility and serve as role models for proper compliance with this policy. Violation of this policy is subject to discipline according to the state of Wyoming personnel rules up to and including termination. We've seen several people here dismissed because of their cell phone. I'll give you 2 examples. In Apps, the Blue Roof building on the south end of campus, this happened several years ago. Security did a shakedown. They found a shank, a knife, basically. Somebody thought it'd be really cool to take a picture of that and put it on their Facebook page. Look what I found at work. Violation of HIPAA. The second time is that I think the person was an aide and they were on a one-on-one. They were sitting in front of a doorway, watching a patient in a room, and you could see through they used the camera system as part of the investigation, the security camera system. You could see his pocket light up on his scrubs. He put his back to the camera, kind of does this, and puts it back in there and turns around and faces the patient. While he's on his one-to-one, he's now turned away from the patient, who knows what the patient's doing, and he's put his attention back to the patient. And I can tell you, in that short amount of time, that patient can hurt themselves or potentially hurt you. You have to be smart. Hall to hall, where you can have your phone is different. Fix me if I'm wrong here. So in Apps, the Blue Roof building, there's 3 halls out there. To my knowledge, you can have your cell phone in the nurse's station on each hall. It cannot leave the nurse's station. In the correction building and on Johnson Hall, which is the corrections unit, you cannot have your cell phone on the hall, nor do you want your cell phone on the hall. There's a room off the hall where you can lock your stuff up. But I will tell you that when you go to your hall, ask the unit nurse manager, what can I do with my cell phone? Where can I take it? Where can I not take it? Where can I put it? Because it does change from hall to hall to hall. Right? So that person is in charge of that hall, and they will tell you exactly where you can and cannot have your phone.
And the reason why Chuck and I can't really give you a strong confirmation on who says what is because, number one, those unit managers change. Also, the policy will change with the wind for them as well. So, and like you said, be careful. Even if you're in a nurse's station, we had somebody in one of our classes take a picture of their friend in a nurse's station. They got in some pretty big trouble because in the background was charting for meds for patients. So I wouldn't even take a picture when you're on your rounds. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it.
Absolutely. So again, Cam and I are available 24/7, 365. You can pick up any house phone, dial 700 or 0, and either talk to us or the switchboard operator. So, and you can email us at wzh-it. So, are there any questions about anything in the presentation? If at any time you have a question, you can always reach us no matter what. Good? Thanks.